Ladies and gents, welcome in to another NRL Fantasy video for 2025. Let this be your one-stop shop for looking at all of the guys from every single position that you could potentially pick heading into round one. The best thing about fantasy games is that you can select a multitude of different guys in so many different combos and come out on top in round one, in round two, round three, that start of the season. What we've actually seen across the last 2 years is that the popular guys haven't gone so well, and those type of combinations have ended up with teams that won the comp last year or in that top 10 being in outside the top 20k in the first round or two, and then improving from there. Whereas those guys, if you can start pretty well, start making that money quickly or get the right scores from the right mid-range or the right gun that even a lot of people aren't going for, it can really put you in good stead to have a great start to your season. So we do have 150 players on this list, which is pretty wild, but I didn't want it to be a point where it's like, you didn't mention this guy, or, this guy's an option, right? And I said, yeah, of course it is. He might not be my cup of tea, but he's also a really solid option there. And what's crazy is there's actually 16 hookers on this list, and then we go down the line, we'll go mid all the way through to wing-fullback there, and I've got their price and I've got what they averaged last year, and just sort of a quick synopsis on these guys. And what you'll see over the next couple of weeks, maybe a little bit longer, is that I'll be going through each and every position. First video up following this will be the hooker guns video. It'll then be the hooker mid-range, which I'm going to look at 400 to 600k players, and then I'm going to look at the cheapies that are under 400k. And you'll see that for each of the positions. So if you're looking for my deep dive, then wait for those videos coming out over the next few weeks, which is going to be plenty of fun. So let's kick it off in the hooking position. There are a bunch of top tier guns that I think you should be looking at, and that you could do really well with picking from round one. A lot of people have different preferences, and this will show that this is the only list of people that you should be looking at, and just completely forget the others. You could say 150 is a lot. Sure, you don't have to look at all of them. But when you're looking at top 30 players across 17 teams, that is a lot of players. You're looking at more than 2/3 of the roster spots that we're not even going to look at for the game at all. So it does bring it down a little bit, and you'll have your list of guys that are super important to you in selecting your round one sides. So with the hooking spot, it's Harry Grant up top. Just a tick under 54 average of 730k. He is a guy that is a top tier player at the position. You have to take that guy into account. What we will laugh at is that I haven't got David Fafita on this list because I think he's too expensive for a round one buy for someone that's coming into the season and might not even make round one with an injury. So he's the only one that's a top point scorer in their position that will not feature in this video. So when that comes up, you don't have to comment that. I've already told you. But Max Plath is next at 52. He's got the jewel this year with the mids, and he'll be pretty important this year at some point, but is it from round one? He might be. If he can get the big minutes, then he could be awesome, and it could be popular amongst some players. Reid Marnie at just a tick under 50 as well, 663k for him. He started really, really well last year, so he's someone that you could easily start with, and you could see him push up in value, and then you could sell him at some point. Connor Watson, he's actually just got the mid only, but he will be named, it looks like, at 9 in round one. So before the game kicks off, when we get those team lists, he'll definitely be there. But for now, just leave him on the bench or leave him in mid if you want to have him in your side. He's a 663k as well, and was very sporadic with minutes last year. And if he gets that starting spot, could be a big minute guy. So Watson's definitely on the list. Robson was the best hooker last year to begin the year, so even better than that of Reid Marnie consistency-wise. So Reece Robson has to be on this list and should be in your thoughts. Api Koroisau is actually suspended for round one, so he could be a looper in that first round. If you think that they are going to do well, the Tigers, then he could be one to make the list. Jeremy Marshall-King's a 44.2 average at 590k. The last 2 years, when he does get the minutes, it's good news for him and his point scoring. So I think that some people might take him, especially as a Dolphins fan. Wade Egan at 553k. So he's in a really solid spot each and every year. It's just the HIAs and the injuries that cause problems for him, because he can score really well outside of that. He's an interesting one that people always ask each year, especially the Warriors fans. Brayley, he's a tick over 500k. I forgot to put his price down there, but I'll fix that one as we go. I think it's just a tick over 500k there at the 38 average. He actually played about 60 minutes last year. If he can bump that up, then he's an option for sure. Aaron Clark at 36, which is a 482k price point. He has the mid-dual, and if he gets that 13 spot at the wires, could be really, really cool. Tom Starling, 450k for him. If he does get the start, he'll be very important as well. Same situation with Brendan Hands. If he gets the start and we don't see Lussick, then that could be really cool. I didn't even bother putting Lussick in this list because I'm just so off him after last week. So, yeah, Lussick you can put in there as well if you like. But Phoenix Crossland, if he does happen to play 7 like he did the back end of last year, then he could be of interest at 382k. Jake Simpkin is likely to be the starting 9 for Manly, with Lockie Croker being out to begin the year for the first 3 rounds, it looks like. So, Simpkin at 371 could definitely be interesting. Blake Moser, if he was to start, again, at 337k could be very interesting as well. Pete Mamazelis, 319k. If he was to start, he will be in everyone's side. That's the hooking position. It's a very interesting setup. And I think it's good to have a quick look this way because this actually took a long time to make this document. But the good thing is it's going to help me set up. It's basically doing the hard yards early and helps me set up for all the guys I want to talk about as a deep dive. I've gone through and done most of the hookers so far as my deep dive, and that's the position that will come out first. But I think it's great to see all their names in a line here, and you can go, oh, I like someone in that top range. I like someone in that mid range. I like a few or whatever in that cheapy range. And with that hooking spot, I think, yeah, you've got a little bit at all values there that could do really good jobs for you. So that's the hooking position. Moving on to the mids. By the way, this video seemed to do really well last year, and people really appreciated that you could have all the players in one spot, which is awesome. And if you are interested in supporting me a little bit further, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. The next step to support, if you have the opportunity to, or the time, especially to invest in in the private group and in the competitions that are available there, and the help that you get from everyone else, it actually can make things a bit easier for you. I'm going to have my rankings each and every week, my best buys in order. And then other people can help you if you have questions as well. So it's a great spot to be, and do make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, guys. There are about 50% at the moment of people that are subscribed versus not. So I would really appreciate that if you can jump in and do that. But yeah, private group stuff in the description. Mids, Isaiah Yeo at 64.8, 865k. He actually finished the year over 900. So that shows that he has that pedigree and he's the best player in the position. So consistent. Payne Haas actually just coming off an ankle injury and some surgery, so there's a little bit of a worry on him now, but he's still someone that could average 65 and needs to be considered. Adam Fanua-Blake continues to score tries and he moves to a better team now. Sorry Wires fans, but Sharks are a top 4 team, just like you guys were in 2023. Pat Carrigan, 770k for him. Probably more of an interesting guy if Payne Haas isn't there. We know he can score 60 plus in that spot there, but people love Paddy. Just ask my girlfriend; she'd is probably going to have him in her side. So if you want to do the same, go for it. If you love Paddy as well, Jermaine Hopgood, he has been a 60 plus guy before, so has to be considered at 743 with the Edge Duel. So I don't know how he ended up with Edge Duel again. They forgot that one, but that's very, very helpful. Cam Murray, if he is available for round 1. 737k for him and has been a 60 plus guy as well, priced at 55. Joey Tarpany, 53.7 is his average, 717 the price. Someone that you can plug and play all year that doesn't play Origin has to be considered. Mitch Barnett with the duel at 712, a very, very great player basically, and we'll have to step up in that squad. Him and Fisher Harris are going to be very, very important, and in that scenario, can he play the big minutes and have the big scores that he did in sort of that mid to back end of the year last year? Tino, 700k. It's a little bit rough on the price point, but we know he can be a 50 plus guy, which would mean he is a little bit undervalued. Will it take some time? And the buy round 1, that's up to you to decide. Colin Matangi, 692k with the Edge Duel. Depends where he's going to line up, but if he's a middle, starting at 13, if Murray's not available or they muck things around and there's a little bit of edge, a little bit of mid, then that could be cool. Terrell May, must have 670k. Nat Butcher, if he actually gets the edge and we do see Radley back in the middle, we had to mention Radley in a little bit as well, then Butcher's a 50 plus guy for sure. Fisher Harris, likely to have more minutes at the Waz. He could be a really fun option for sure. Stefano Utoikamanu, 600k as well, moves to the Storm. Can he have an uptick? Potentially. Lindsay Smith, 600k. Him and Liotta are going to be the main guys now at Penrith in that middle rotation. Can he get some more minutes, or can he improve his PPM a little bit? Which won't need to be too much, but get it closer to 1. Potentially, he's an Australian rep now. Victor Radley, 598k with the edge dual. If he goes back to 13, we know he has the potential to hit a 50 average. Dylan Walker, if he's going to play big minutes again, then he could potentially have a little bit of value on him. And again, if you're a Wise fan, you might want that. Fighting with Aaron Clark there at 568. Corey Horsburgh, we know he can be gun status into the 700s, so has to be considered if he is starting at 550k. Liam Henry at 542k with the edge dual. He should get a couple extra minutes and will be the guy to play big minutes, I think, and move to edge or something like that if things go wrong, or if they have a couple of injuries, one's not playing one game, then they have an injury in game. I think he'll go to an edge and play big minutes where we know he scores well. Toby Couchman has to get the start, to be of relevance here, but has the edge dual at 528k. He's the up-and-coming guy with his brother in the Dragon setup, and I think he could be interesting. Jack Williams, definitely look at him. If he got the start at 8 or 10 and potential for 50 minutes, I think he's got some value. Sorensen, he could be starting on the edge. If he's a bench guy, we won't look at him. Tom Gilbert, average 0 last year, obviously didn't play. 500k edge dual. That's really nice. And guys, we are still going, for those following along on podcasts, we are still in the midsection. So from 17 all the way through to 51 are mids, which is pretty wild. There's so many guys that you can pick in the position, and all of these guys have some type of relevance or potential to score well for sure, which is absolutely wild that you could have so many different combinations, and there's so many guys with a lot of money attached to them that could do really well. Liam Henry, Couchman, Jack Williams, Sorensen, and Gilbert there. We've got him at 500k, has been upwards of a 700k player, which is great. Offen Galway at 490. If he manages to get some more minutes with RCG gone, then he could be cool. And so very much the same with Jack Williams there. Alex Seyfarth, 475k. I'm interested in him. We know he has great numbers at edge, but does he keep the spot? Talis Duncan, does he end up with a start if there are some injuries to begin the year? There's Aitken, there's Murray, these types of guys that are racing the clock. Does he get an opportunity with bigger minutes? Griffin Neem at 451k. This one's more for Mark Jessup. Is the love affair with him. We're both Cowboys fans, but he's loving Big Griff, and I do hope he steps up as well. He has the opportunity in a weaker pack right now. Daniel Saifidi at the Dolphins at 448k. He had times last year where he was a 40 plus guy, and he had a shocking start to the year. So he's interesting. David Moale, I've got my eye on at 432k. Maybe an awkward price, but I think he steps up in this Rabbitohs pack. Nafahu White at 415 on the with the edge dual as well. Does he get the start at the Roosters? If he does, he'll be very valuable. Kobe Hetherington. If Carrigan does move to 8 or 10 and joins Payne Haas, that's a crazy front row rotation. The Hetherington would have some value potentially at that 13, or if Payne Haas was to miss some time, definitely. Sam Hughes, our legend of last year, 389k. Surely he's in line for some more minutes this year after they managed him at certain times. Royce Hunt at 275. He potentially has some value as well. Hopefully he does. With some more minutes, you would think. Can't really go any lower with the Tigers. And then Widamu Greg and Tom Amone. Two guys there that I think can play a role at some point. When is that going to be is the big question, but keep an eye out for those two as bench middles. Okay, moving to the edge, and hope that wasn't too much and too fast for you. For the mids, but that's a lot of players. And edges, we go from 52 to 77. For Angus Crichton at 728k, it does feel like a really nice price, considering last year he had a 4-game stretch there where he was like 75, 80 plus. So that was wild. He's an interesting guy to have a look at. We have Eli Katoa, 700k. Definitely look into him because he was very dominant at times last year. Just has the bye round 2, which is frustrating, but you do get out of the way early. and no Origin. Jacob Preston, 695. I have a lot of interest in Presto. I think he improves this year with potential for more minutes as well. Britton Nickera, usually a guy you can pick at at the correct, you have to try and pick at the correct time. But this year, with a really improved team, I think, with Adam Blake, that just helps massively. And if he can get off to a good start with some tries, then he could go 60 plus. Have to consider as always with him. Dylan Lucas has the duel with the centre at 672. If he does start on the edge and plays the big minutes, which we would expect, then I think he can get to 55 and a mid 700s price. Olakwatu, same price there at 672. He has try scoring potential in a good team. Had a bit of a lull in the back end of the year, so I think there's some value on his starting price, and he began really well last year. Both for more. With the centre duel, he's a 665k. He really worked into the season, spent a lot of time at centre, and if he can stay on that edge, it's going to be even better for him and could be a looper in round 1. Isaiah Papali'i at 622k. If he gets that starting edge position, it is absolute fantasy gold. Could be 60 plus, like we've seen before. I think Teague Wilton at 598 is, I was going to say steal, but he should be back to that 50 price point. So a little bit of cash there to be made with Wilton upwards of 80k or so in a good team there. John Bateman, 44.6. Forgot his price in there as well, but he's at 595 for Johnny Bateman. And with the Cowboys, I think he's going to be very, very important, needed on that edge and potentially through the middle as well. So could be a guy that gets back to 50 plus scoring like we've seen. Bryce Cartwright, the round 1 hero last year with a 90 odd. Could he do the same and start really well? Some people will pick him for sure in a improved side, you would imagine, next to Moses. He always scores better. Sean Bloor, 586k. He had a fairly slow start, to be honest, with the Storm last year. He played less than 80 minutes. He had a good couple of first games and then really fell away and had some 30s and low 40s and stuff. And I think he's better than that personally, so have a look at him. Zach Hosking has to be relevant this year at some point, whether it's from round 1 or when he's a little bit healthier. Minutes-wise is going to be the question. Lemuelu, 503k for Connolly. He had a bit of a down year with knee injury, so check him out and look at the years before to get a gauge on him. But I'll deep dive through all of these guys, don't you worry, team. But just while we're slowly working through that, hopefully this video answers a bunch of questions and gets you looking in the right direction in making your teams. Kelma Tuolangi at 420k. When he starts, his value. That's the question. Does he start? Benny Turbo, 415k with the center duel. He'll be of similar ilk if he can lock down that edge position and play close to 80 minutes, and he has lots of value. That's the big question. Piakura, can he at 400k? Can he clean up those missed tackles? We'll have to wait and see. He can't play any worse, to be honest with you, and that's where some value pops up. Fina Fiuaki at 400k moves to a new team, should play bigger minutes overall than what his price and average suggests last year. Josh Schuster, if we do see a few injuries at the Rabbitohs, can he come into calculations at 400k with the half duel? Jack Bird, he has the centre duel at 362, and if he's starting lock, most people will own him. Ryan Couchman at 358k. He'll be a very, very interesting player at some point this year. Will it be from round 1 as a youngster coming through, can play middle and edge? Oren Keeley. There was some reports coming out that Finn and Lemuelu were sharing duties on that right-hand side. So the question is, who's going to be on the left? Keeley could be. Gilbert played most of the middle in that as well. So there's some space on the edge there for someone to partner, like guys like Felice Kafusi. So we'll see how that one plays out. Charlie Geimer, I really liked how he played in that couple of games that he had last year. So look out for him at 300k. Val Marga at 297. Really interesting young forward coming through the wires. Blake Steep at 250 along with Kai O'Donnell. Two interesting fellas that will likely see some bench time. And I think O'Donnell has more of a chance to see some minutes with the Cows, given they've got Lukey down injured, and will he come in for Nanai at some point with Origin around? These are all the big questions there. Now, we'll move on to the half section, which has actually a lot, surprisingly enough, just under 30 players. And so Nathan Cleary at 880k will be a lot of people's captain, so make sure you check him out. Nico Hines, same deal, a little bit cheaper, a lot cheaper than last year. Both these guys were $1 million. Jerome Hughes was incredible last year. Can he keep that up? A buy round 2 makes it hard, but some people will grab him because he's super fun to watch. Jaden Campbell with the wing fullback duel at 722. Definitely need to keep an eye out on him. Does have the buy round 1, but if he's the 7, doing a lot of the kicking, goal kicking, it's pretty tasty for sure. Matt Burton, I'm super excited about this year at 709. Check him out and with the Dogs improving. Fogarty scored better than this for the most part, especially at the beginning of last year. So if he's partnered with Strange, he could be a mid-50s guy again. Mitch Moses, they priced him up, sadly, over that 50 mark, but a 49 average for him. The big watch is on him with the goal kicking. Cam Munster has been a 50-plus guy for a long time, and he's a 589k with that injury worry, but still a really interesting pick, and a great pick it could be. Jerome Luai at 589 as well. Really wild you can get Munster and Luai at that same price. Luai moving to a worse team in the Tigers, but he's going to lead it. And doesn't have Cleary next to him. We know that he can score really well at 7, but what does the team change do? Tom Dearden at 580. You have to pop him in there because I think he has to be the dominant guy at the Cows this year. Whether they use him as more of a kicker, like if he was to partner someone like Tom Duffy, the youngster, I think that Dearden really has to take over and could definitely improve on his average. Tamati Martin at 576k, he definitely has some potential in this setup. He had moments last year where he was absolutely terrific, and then had some less minute games and all the rest. So keep an eye out on him. Isaiah Katoa, 552k for him. I mentioned in the previous video, I think he'll improve on his average. So keep an eye on him. 45 plus is the expectation, I think, for a youngster improving and taking over this side in the Dolphins. Number 90, we've got Cody Walker at 515k. He's got better than that in him for sure. So people will look to start with him. If the Bunnies start hot, he'll have a good start. Braden Trindle, 510k. The average is 38.2, and if he becomes 50-50 with Hines and the team goes well, he could easily be a 40s guy for sure. So keep an eye on him. Some people might go for it. Tyson Gamble, if he's talked about starting with Fletcher Sharp, then you have to look at him, basically. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Tanner Boyd, if he's starting, you have to look at him as well. He'll be a dominant kicker. Potential for goal kicking. Jack Cogger, if he starts at Knights and a 453k, we've seen a much better scores from him. So keep an eye on him. And then you got Luke Metcalf. There's a bunch of guys in this weird sort of 400 to 500 range. Seen here with Flanagan and Elias as well. So Metcalf, 33 before his injury last year, well, including that injury game. So he has definitely some value. And if he goal kicks as well, even better. Kyle Flanagan at 440. He, with that 33 average last year, that's with Ben Hunt. And now it's going to be with Lockie Elias. So expect that to improve, in my opinion, with some good players outside of him in Val Holmes. Lockie Elias, 400k, has been bumped up a bit, but he's been a mid-30s to high-30s guy, and that was with Cody Walker. So how does he go with Flanagan? Question maybe of the team and him coming back from injury, but we'll have to see how that combo looks in trials. Ethan Sanders, 350k. If he does partner Jamal Fogarty at the Raiders, he could be an interesting pick for sure. Will Price at 350 with the wing fullback duel. He had 30.2 as his average last year, which we're probably expecting better if he, now that he has another year under his belt and some time to gel, hopefully, with a halves partner, but we don't get that often from the Knights. Jamie Humphries, my namesake, picked up a 46 in his one game last year. They priced him at 350, likely to be benched, but if he was to start, then hook in for sure. Carter Gordon with the bye round 1 makes it hard to kind of learn how he's going to be played, but we will see trial teams, and a lot of time the trials is very similar to what we get in that round 1, especially if they load up with their more first grade side in one of them. In last year anyway, it was the first trial, not the second trial, which is usually the second you see those big dogs. So watch out for that one with the Titans. He could be an interesting loop guy in round 1 or a target after that. Sandon Smith at 250k will be in most people's sides if he starts, and should be. Jack Cole, can't believe he got priced down, but if he's a starter in that Panthers side over Talangi at 250, he'd be a must. And Tom Duffy, the same thing. If he was to start for the Cows at 7, he would also be a must. Centers, 2 to go, guys. 47 players or something. Beautiful. Herbie Farnworth. Some people might start with him, and for good reason. He has tremendous upside with 90s and tons. So yeah, I wouldn't push you away from Farnworth for sure. 734, even though it's expensive. He's clearly the best centre. Dane Gagai is clearly the second best centre at 51.8, 691k. He tends to get into his work sort of through the middle part of the season. And if he's not going to play Origin this year, which is definitely a chance, then Gagai can be a really good pick. Just depends when. Do you get him round 1 or later? Zach Lomax, he's got the dual, so I had to slot him in there at 668. He played incredible last year and still only hit a 50 average, so I don't think he could play much better. Just his fantasy game, because there's errors and stuff involved, compared to just Herbie and tackle break central. Lomax goes up and tries to tap a lot of balls back or drops them in the air and stuff, so that's where some of the negatives comes. But if that team goes really well and he's goal kicking, then it could be really fun. And Val Holmes, you have to mention as well, he can have tremendous games and really big games, so yeah, some people might go with him. Jacob Carraz is a fun one. Again, had him all year last year. 641k with wing fullback dual and tends to play better on the wing. It could be a fun one for sure, and I think Dogs fans will go that way. Kale Iro, 69 TK for him. His second half of the season was tremendous when he started scoring tries, so if that's the case again, he could be a 50-plus guy. And it's more, I suppose, shared across the season, spread across the season, his tries, rather than being, he's averaged like low 40s for the first part without tries, and if he can kind of spread that out, I think it'll be 50 rather than, for the whole year, rather than like 55 at one section. But that's outside backs for you. Ruben Garrick, he has some value for sure. Wing fullback dual as well. Interestingly good pick. Bradman Best at 582k. He has big scores in him. He has Bradman Best tons in him, which has to be mentioned. Campbell Graham at 580 has scored mid to high 40s at times before, so has to be considered. Hopefully he's fit and firing and no more niggles and no more big issues with that sternum. Selwyn Cobbo, can he find some magic? That's the big question. And if the Broncos do well and if he moves back to wing, I think he can be 45 plus. Penasini, always better with Moses. So Moses is there round 1. Penasini has to be an option. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, I think for him, if with the dual at 510k, if he's ends up on the wing, I think that's a better scoring system and scoring outlet for him. So look at that. Matt Timoko, 510k for him is a very, very fun one. That's for sure. Although I've got Paul Alamoti 505k. 505k. Nice. He's a 38. For Matt Timoko, he has been a 45 plus guy at times. So has to be considered if the Raiders can start well also. He had times where he did struggle last year. Alamotti should improve, to be honest. I think he can be 40 plus, so in a great team in that left center role. Could be a good option, especially if you haven't got Luai there stepping back on the inside. It actually just gets fed to him, and if it's Isaiah Papali'i, that could be fun. Braden Burns, averaged 45 last year and is priced at a 38. On that wing, has the dual for the Cows. If the Cows can start all right, then you can get a 45 average out of Burns. Has to be considered. Isaac Tungo, I can't believe he's 500k, but there's just so many options, isn't there, in that centre wing like that? What did I say? Even in the centres, there's 24 options, which is pretty wild. And he was very popular at times in the second half of last year anyway. 500k, you should go better than that, but can you pick him? Adam Dewey, same situation with him, has the half dual at that price point. Can you go for someone like that has injuries written all over him? And I hope that changes this year. Does he goal kick? If Happy keeps it, it's probably not a great pick. If he does get it, could be fun. Jack Howarth, super excited about him this year. Did get a little bit of a bump, unfortunately, with his price point up to in the 33s, but has the edge dual in a great team, played really well in the finals. Could be a fun one. Isaiah Tass, 325. He's averaged close to 40 twice, so has to be considered. Tamale, with the Raiders, averaged 30 last year, so they bumped him up to 300. Still a really fun option, I think, if he gets that wing spot. Just has a much more fantasy-friendly game. Jackson Purdue, 250k. If he gets that starting spot in the centres, I think he will be picked by most people. Jesse McLean there, 250k. Dual position with the wing fullback. If he gets that wing over his brother, then all systems go. We got Stafford Toa. There's going to be a time he ends up getting a chance. He's one injury away, most likely, or one suspension, and at 250k, you should climb in. And then Rob Toa, 230k. If he starts, you'll get him in the Roosters setup. For the wing fullbacks, there are the remaining 23, which is good fun. But Latrell Mitchell, 800k, he's by far the most expensive wing fullback, which can show that you can get bulk points out of him. But can you get those kind of points, or does Latrell come down to the level of Tedesco, Edwards, Ponga, and Turbo, and then potentially guys for like Drinkwater, Keeney, Walsh for their increase, which will be interesting for sure in that system and how that's going to work. But with Latrell at that price point, he brings everything to the game with kicking in general play, goal kicking, which is something that Teddy doesn't have. And that is that enough consistency to push him over Tedesco, who was spectacular last year and will be needed this year for the Roosters. You got Dylan Edwards, I think a better pick if he goal kicks and Cleary's out, but still a very consistent player. Ponga, he goal kicks as well, kicks in general play, 730k is a really fun pick from ball one. Tommy Trebojevic, very similar situation to last year with his price point. Is he a guy that has upside? He didn't really show it too much, especially at the start of the year. It was just 45, 55, 52, like very consistent, surprisingly enough. Can he go to another level this year? Hopefully he's fit, because he looked great in the Aussie stuff. That'll be fun. Reece Walsh, can the team be better, basically? He did get a little bit of a bump as well, unfortunately. So you've got him and Turbo at the same price at 700k, which is pretty crazy. And Ponga got a little bit of a bump as well, along with Edwards, I think. There's a few guys that did get moved around a bit. No, yeah, Ponga's up a little bit. Exact for Edwards, 730 each as a 0.7 points difference. Walsh is up a bit as well. Yeah, because Drinkwater's a 654. So that's crazy that Walsh gets bumped up. Drinkwater adds the goal kicking this year, which is pretty crazy. And Turbo's fun as well. So can Drinky in that team improve? We'll get to him as a deep dive analysis. I'm excited to deep dive that one and my team in general. Keanu Kenny, slow start to last year. This year, of course, he has the bye round 1 instead of round 2. I wish that was the case last year. Might have helped me not pick him to start the year anyway. But 654k, he has been bumped up as well, sadly. So he's same price as Drinkwater, which is frustrating there. And then I forgot Hamiso's. So he's like in what's he at? 44. It's like 610, 615, I think it is. Whatever it is. That's my guess. 615k for Hammer. Can he improve on his 44 last year? I think there's definitely a possibility. But yeah, it can be risky. Pappenhausen, I can't believe he's 530k. We saw last year he came in fairly cheap, I think close to that 500k mark, and he worked out really well until he got injured. So it was great until that game. He'll have improvement on him. He looked great in the final series, and I'm praying my favourite player can continue to do good things. Jareem Buller at 525k. I think he's due for some improvement this year in a better team on paper. Jermaine Asako, 510k for him. Definitely some improvement needed. He averaged 50 the year before. You'd say the 38's his floor in a solid team goal kicking. So, yeah, could be 40 plus this year. Connor Tracy's one, I think that he can easily be a 40 plus guy, and it just didn't happen last year. They scored points through other avenues, and he had his decent games, but he had some floor games as well. So, expect him to improve in another year at fullback at a good club. No one's spoken about him yet. I think he's going to be a fun one. Home stretch, guys. 10 plays left. Jarrell Skelton, 500k, got a little bit of a bump up, sadly, but he has tremendous base stats. His running ability and tackle breaking ability is second to none, so keep him in your thoughts. Another Tiger to the list. AJ Brimson, 36 average he was last year. There's a lot of games at centre and some games off the interchange. If he starts at 6 at 482k, yes, his body's made of glass. I do love watching him play in a bye round 1. There's a few red flags, but at that price point, it's in a position that could be tough. It could be fun. We'll get into him and his analysis when the fullback position comes a little bit later. Greg Marzou, 481k. He's up around the 50 average mark the year before, so very similar to Asako. But a team that was just very sporadic with their picks in the halves, especially, and they just didn't seem fluid at all. And Ponga wasn't able to get the footy out to him. Blaze Talangi. People are going to look at him. If he starts at 6 or 458k, I understand why people will jump on him, and he'll have the half duel as well. Blake Wilson, 384k. I just think that he has talent. His fantasy stats don't say so, but with his base stats. But if he can improve that a little bit, there's easily some upside on Blake, especially as a Dogs fan. You've got Marcelo Montoya at 356k with the centre duel. I think he has to be looked at to change of team, and I'll obviously go through and analyse him. Isaiah Iongi, 43 was his average, 350k on his one. He'll be in most people's sides if he starts. We're not expecting the world, but I think we can expect good things from a cheap fullback that has talent. Nwanga Nitawaze, 350k from him, one game, beautiful try on debut. 43 he got in that one game, but if he's starting at centre, I think he's going to be fun. I didn't put Billy Smith in here. He's at 450k. It just feels an awkward price for someone that continues to get injured and he hasn't been training. But the last two, you've got Tyrone Munro at 300k, hit 25 average last year and has some upside in an improving team. And Rob Derby, not expecting him to play at the moment, expecting guys like Burns to be ahead of him, but at 250k, he has really good pedigree in Queensland Cup. So there you go, guys. That is everything. That's all the players that you need to look at. We had the strategy video that's come out, so make sure you do go check that out where it says the game has changed. Check that thumbnail out. And a big thank you to everyone who's tuned in so far since the game has opened. The views of and the listens have rocketed. Make sure you do check out the podcast if you haven't yet. I'm going to be putting those podcasts out about 3 hours early from the videos just to try and promote that a little bit more. That's going to be really cool. I think a lot of people prefer to listen that way, and you've got the good audio and stuff, so that'll be cool. And if you like this setup with the videos and just seeing everything on your screen, then that's really helpful as well. And a big thanks to everyone for sticking all the way through the end. If you did stick all this way, please comment below saying I'm here and I'll give you a shout out. So thanks so much for that. I'll comment back. Good legends, and catch you in that next video, which is going to be the hooker gun section. Deep dive analysis. I cannot wait.